Hello IELTS folks, I'm Ethan. As I told you in my video on IELTS listening tips, I took my computer-based IELTS recently here in Montreal and I got a score of 9 overall with an 8.5 in reading. In this video, I'm going to share my strategies and give you tips on how to go about taking IELTS reading in such a way that you maximize your score. This is not about reading faster. It's not about understanding everything. This is about making smart decisions under time pressure. Also, in the coming weeks, I'm going to make videos on tips and tricks of IELTS speaking and IELTS writing. Let's go. As you know, IELTS has two versions, academic and general training. The reading test has 40 questions in both versions, and you have 60 minutes to answer them. In the academic test, there are 3 sections, and each section has one long academic passage on a scientific subject. In general training reading, there are 3 sections as well. However, sections 1 and 2 in the general training test might have 2 or even 3 shorter texts. Section 3 is usually similar to academic reading passages. So even though both versions have 3 sections, the reading experience feels very different, especially in general training. In order to get a band 7 in the academic reading, you're supposed to get 30 correct answers. But in the general training reading, a band 7 needs 34 correct answers. Remember that if you're taking the general training test. That means in general training IELTS, you have less room for error. Every single question matters more. But of course, general training is easier than academic overall. In the academic reading, the first passage is typically the easiest, and the third passage is usually the hardest, but not always. In one of my paper-based exams that I took many years ago, the third passage was about how chimpanzees learn a language. And since I was very familiar with the topic, no, not because I used to be a chimpanzee, but because I studied linguistics at university, I could finish that passage in about 12 minutes and get a band 9 in that exam. So, difficulty is not just about position. It's also about familiarity. Sometimes a hard passage becomes easy if the topic is familiar to you. Time is your biggest enemy in IELTS reading. IELTS reading tells you should spend about 20 minutes on each passage. But I tell you, you should aim at spending 15 minutes on the first passage, about 18 minutes on the second passage, and maybe 20 minutes on the third one. That adds up to around 53 minutes. This gives you around 7 minutes at the end to read the questions that you were unable to answer during the first pass. Those final minutes are not a bonus. They are part of the strategy. Now, while you're answering the questions, you should not get stuck on difficult ones. If you're unable to answer a particular question in about 1 minute, you should mark that question and mark the area of the text where you think the answer will be found. Then, during those final minutes that you saved, you come back and deal with harder questions. So, if you can't answer a question, move on. Moving on here is not giving up. It's protecting your precious time and your score. In IELTS reading, you get a test booklet that contains the questions and texts, and you get an answer sheet. Remember that, unlike the listening test, you do not get a transfer time. So, you should directly write your answers on the answer sheet. This can make or break your test. In an IELTS I took in the 2000s, I think, after the test finished, I saw a guy who was begging the exam invigilators to give him a few more minutes. The man didn't know he wouldn't get transfer time, and he was crying. All in vain. He wasn't given extra time. This is one of the most painful mistakes you can make, and it's got nothing to do with your English level. So you don't make that mistake. Answers directly on the answer sheet right from the start. Having the experience of both paper-based and computer-based IELTS, I think it's a little easier to take computer-based reading. I can see the text and read the questions on the same page, and I don't have to turn pages all the time. That alone saves me mental energy, and mental energy matters a lot in a 3.5-hour exam. Trust me. In another video, I go over all the differences between the computer-based IELTS and the paper-based one. Watch that video. It will help you make an informed decision. There are two strategies in IELTS reading. Some people, myself included, prefer to read each text completely and then answer the questions. Choose this strategy if you're a fast reader and you have a good memory. If you read slowly, this strategy will probably hurt you. The second strategy is to read the questions first and then go to the text to find the answers. You should scan the text quickly and find each answer based on the keywords. Most test takers end up using a mix of both strategies depending on the passage. Another question is whether the answers within the text follow the same order as the questions. Usually, yes, they do. But you usually have more than one question type for each text. And this can change the game a little bit. This is where many candidates get confused and start panicking. In another video, I'll go into question types and the best strategies to answer each question type. This is where you learn the ins and outs of IELTS reading questions and strategies. Now let's move on to the next point. Reading passages often cover complex topics. Very often you won't understand everything. Some ideas will be unclear to you. Some words will be unfamiliar. That's normal. The goal is not full understanding. The goal is navigating the text and finding the answers. Let me say that again. The goal is not understanding everything. Your goal is finding answers efficiently. And this is how you navigate complex text. You focus on keywords. Keywords guide your attention. Keywords carry meaning. First, read the question carefully. Slow down at the question. Ask yourself what it is really asking. Identify the keywords in the question, underline them, fix them in your mind, then go back to the text. Look only for the synonyms of the keywords and the concepts you read in the question. Most of the time, you will not find the exact keywords in the passage. You should look for the paraphrase of that question. The key is to pay attention to meaning rather than words. Try to focus on meaning and how the parts of the question are related to the part of the passage. There will certainly be irrelevant information in the passage, but if a word doesn't affect the answer, it doesn't deserve your attention. As you scan the passage quickly, underline and highlight names, dates, places, basically any numbers and any names which start with a capital letter are a keyword, and there might be answers around them. Train your eyes to be sensitive to capital letters. Last time I took the paper-based exam, I was not allowed to use a highlighter. I had to underline the keywords with my pencil. I don't know whether that's an IELTS thing or something specific to that particular test center. But in the computer-based version, you can right-click and highlight words and phrases. The thing to remember again is not to spend too much time on any question. I spent less than a minute on a question. If I can't answer it, I mark it and move on. This gives me a chance to answer more easy questions. Then at the end of the reading test, I come back and deal with challenging questions. Don't forget, easy questions count the same as hard ones. I have another video where I explain how to answer tricky questions like yes, no, not given, and true, false, not given, and matching headings. You can come back and watch that video later. When you're familiar with all types of IELTS reading questions, as soon as you see a certain question, you know exactly what you're going to do. At that point, you're not thinking anymore, you're executing, and you're saving your time, which is your biggest asset in IELTS reading. All right, IELTS folks, these were my tips and tricks on IELTS reading. My next video will be on IELTS writing. Write in the comments which parts of the test you want me to make videos on. Also, which question types in IELTS reading are the most challenging to you. Your comments guide my future videos. By the way, if you find any value in this video, subscribe to my channel, and maybe even share it with a friend who's preparing for IELTS. Good luck with your preparation. Ciao!